Emo hip-hop creators are metalheads. While it doesn't really matter if you're in the underground, if people call you a poser or not, a lot of times a lot of metalheads stick to one specific style of music, and while I know personally that the vast majority of metalheads prefer metal over other genres, there is a wide plethora of people that listen to everything, that listen to non-metal, that listen to genres that are diametrically opposed to metal, myself included. But a cultural shift a lot of people don't really talk about or think about is that the 2010s emo hip-hop sphere that blew up and dominated the radio waves for the 2010s, and we are still seeing the impact of now, was vastly influenced by emo, metal, and rock culture of the early 2000s and the 1990s. A lot of these artists' aesthetics took a lot of heed from grunge of the 1990s and that sort of DIY aesthetic, grungy clothing, but it's in the actual stylings of the music that showcased a lot of their influences. A lot of these emo hip-hop artists took influence from nu metal, from emo, from post-hardcore, from screamo, and that's why you see a lot of metalheads and hardcore punk people interacting with these artists because they came from the same scenes that they were, and emo hip-hop literally has the word emo in it for a reason. And while some artists definitely exhibit those traits more than others, even artists like Lil Lotus and XXXTentacion and Lil Uzi Vert not only collaborated with other artists that were metal or rock or post-hardcore, but they also put that into their own music as a whole, with a lot of those artists that sort of dabbled in that emo, hip-hop, horrorcore sphere, taking influence from metal and hardcore punk music of the 90s and of the 2000s. That was the scene they were birthed from, and that was what they listened to, and just because they weren't making just outright metal music or outright punk music does not mean that that influence was not majorly felt in all of their music. I was watching a recent interview with Connie Scarbosa where she talked about how she was hanging out with Lil Lotus, and she would hang out with these hip-hop heads that people would sort of look at her and say, oh, she's just wanting to do networking, or oh, she is just a poser, which, number one, calling Connie Scarbosa a poser is absolutely funny if you don't know her history, but I digress. A lot of these artists came from either the DC hardcore scene, or in her case, from the San Diego and LA hardcore scenes. And I think there just is this weird crossover between hip-hop and metal, quite literally more than any other genre on the planet, outside of course, rock, which that's a given. You're seeing Megan Thee Stallion collaborate with Spiritbox, you're seeing Lil Uzi Vert collaborating with Bring Me the Horizon, and all of these emo hip-hop artists of the 2010s incorporating that style into their music more and more. There really isn't that much of a diverging point in the attitude and of the culture, even though there are rich historical differences between the two. They're more closely aligned than people might actually give them credit for. And then when you put hand in hand with that, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, heavy metal offshoots of all time, that being nu metal, was insanely inspired by hip-hop music. Obviously some bands more than others, but Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and Korn would not be what they were and would not be what they are if it wasn't for the severe hip-hop influence and that bridging the gap that created that style to be what it is. And even in the rock sphere, going back as far as like the Beastie Boys were incorporating rap music into rock music and became one of the most namesake bands of the genre at the time. So yeah, you can say someone's a poser for not listening to strictly metal or strictly rock music, but you are very much misinformed if you think that there isn't some sort of correlation between hip-hop music and metal music and rock music. While they are drastically different, and the vast majority of metal isn't going to be influenced by that, the emo hip-hop sphere, as well as hip-hop as a whole, left such an imprint on modern metal that we are still feeling the sheer impact of that. Not to mention, and I know some fans of slam metal don't like hearing this, slam metal has a lot of hip-hop influence too, look it up. So while genres like death metal and black metal and grindcore aren't really going to have hip-hop influence, and you're not going to have emo hip-hop artists making fucking grindcore music, when you look at artists like Suicide Boys and Bones and Scarlxrd and Zillakami, even artists like Denzel Curry, XXXTentacion, Lil Lotus, Lil Uzi Vert, all incorporating this into their music in some form or fashion, you have to put some respect on the name. And yes, I will end this video by saying, trap metal is real metal. What are your guys' opinions of this topic? You can let me know down in the comment section below. I can't wait to hear it. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.